Hi. Oh, thank you for those nice messages. That's awesome. So nice to see you guys again. I'm so glad I got an opportunity to do this course with you. Anyway, the do now is on the screen. I had figured the best thing for us to do is just get stuck straight into revision work. So this is question number 1. This is the first thing that you're going to see when you open up paper 1. All right. And paper 1, question 1 is quite predictable in that regard. It's always going to be solving for X, a question on exponents, surds, inequalities, etc., etc. So I'd like to encourage all of you to get started. You should be able to do 1.1.1 and 1.1.2 without any assistance. What I am going to write over here for you, for 112, you're going to need the quadratic formula. So I'm just going to pop that up here for you now. I think by this stage, we all know the quadratic formula off by heart, but anyway, just in case, there it is. Okay, so yeah, grade 10s, just get started on that, please. And we'll just wait a couple of minutes and see who else joins us, and then we'll carry on going. Hi, it's so nice to see you again. Sepo, Luyanda, Mbali, cool. Karabo, welcome back. I hope everybody's got their book and a calculator and a pen to write with. I'm sure you do. Is there anybody that's finished the first 2 questions? You can pop a thumbs up into the chat for me, please. If you finished with the first 2. Okay, so maybe nobody's finished just yet. Okay, I'm just going to wait 1 more minute, and then we'll see. Okay, so it's 6:05 now. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting you, but I obviously want to get our lesson underway. And theoretically, this might be a little bit of a push, but theoretically, you should have been able to finish these couple of questions by now. I mean, it is out of 5 marks. Maybe you'd be on the second one. All right. Was everybody okay with question 111 and 112? Okay, so Ayamide says fine, thank you. We're going to look at the answers now. Sake, you thumbs up. Please just give me a thumbs up if you felt that it was okay. Isaiah, you said fine. Okay, so Matrix, what you should be doing in terms of your time management is every question that you answer, you should take the mark allocation and multiply it by 1.2. And that's how long you should spend on the question. Okay, just to give you an idea. So, if you're doing something out of 5 marks, you shouldn't be spending any more than about 7 minutes on it. All right, otherwise you're going to go over time. I just want to show you the answers for the first couple of questions. So they're here. And I think it's important for you to know where your marks are being allocated. So there's a mark for taking out the common factor of x, and then an accuracy on both answers. So x is 0 or x is 6. And then in the second question, the clue is it says to you correct to 2 decimal places. So straight away, it's not going to factorize. You have to use the quadratic formula. You do not need to write the quadratic formula down. You can go straight to this step over here, all right, where you've subbed in. You must show that you've subbed in. Okay, that's really important. You don't have to simplify. You can just go straight to the answers. Okay, so hopefully you got negative 0,88 or x equals negative 9,12. Can you put a thumbs up into the chat for me if you got both of those correct? Excellent, well done. Brilliant. Okay, so now before we carry on, good stuff. So if there are any questions, then please unmute your mic. Or stop me. I'm just going to carry on going. Question 1, as we were talking about, is really quite predictable. Okay, so you've seen the first 2 questions, you've answered those, all right? I'm going too fast. Sorry, Benedict. Did you manage to get the answers? I'll try and speak a little. Okay, all right. I'm sorry, Benedict. I'll try and slow down a little bit. All right. Question 1, 1.1.1, 111, 112, 113, 114, all very standard questions. I want you to have a look here at the 2019. We're going to come back to this paper now. But can you see how it's pretty much the same thing? In 2019, first question, factorizing to solve for x. Second question, using the quadratic formula. Third question, inequality. Fourth question has roots in it. Okay, then a question on solving simultaneously, and then a sort of slightly more difficult question, application type question on exponents. Look at the previous year's paper. Okay, so this is now DBE 2018, same idea. First question, factorizing. Second question, quadratic formula. Third question, inequality. Fourth question has a root in it. Okay, next question, solving simultaneously. Next question, something on exponents. So I want you to see that so that you know what to expect, all right? These are the sorts of things that are going to be asked of you, all right? And I'm fairly certain that this year will be exactly the same thing. All right, so 111 and 112 were fine. Let's just talk about 113 before you do it, okay? It's a question on an inequality. What shape is your parabola? You can pop it into the chat or you can unmute your mic. What shape is your parabola? Is it happy face or is it sad face?
Maybe it's a sad face.
It's a sad face parabola, quite right. Are you comfortable with working with a sad face parabola?
Yes, ma'am.
You comfortable doing that? All right. Is there anybody who doesn't know how to do question 113 or needs a little bit of assistance? Otherwise, you can get started on question 113.
Ma'am, can I ask if you first find the critical values?
Yes, that's quite right. You do need to find the critical values first. In this situation, can you see that it's already factorized? So you don't need to multiply it out, only to refactorize it. I mean, you can if you want to, but you're going to be wasting time. So yes, establish your critical values. All right. Then check, are you working above? Are you looking where your outputs are positive? So in other words, above the x-axis, or are you looking for where your outputs are negative? Are you below the x-axis? And then you can, I don't know if you do this at school, you can either use a number line, or you can actually draw the parabola itself. Okay, and then you can go ahead and answer that. So unless there are any other questions, you can answer that one too. 114, does everybody know how to do this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to do 113 and 114. It's worth 8 marks. Off you go. Does anyone have any questions? If you do, you can just unmute your mic or pop a message into the chat. No problem, Karabo. The reason that you know that it's a sad face parabola, Karabo, is from this bit over here. It's from the first bracket. Can you see that you've got a negative x over here? So if you were to multiply this out, you would end up with the coefficient of your x squared term being a negative. That's how you know it's got to be that shape.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. If you are a fast finisher and you've done 113 and 114, then you can try 1.2 as well. But I am going to go and look at the answers shortly for 113 and 114. Are there any other questions you'd like to ask? Okay, does anybody have an answer for 113 now?
Ma'am, is it 7 and -2?
Did you say 7
Oh, no,
and negative?
113. No. It's 114. Ma'am, 113. Is it 1 and -2? It's between -2 and
I'm going to show you again. All right, there it is over there. Okay, so it had to be smaller than -2 or greater than 1. Is that what you got?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How about the rest of you? Did you get the same answer? Yes, yes. Mbali, you happy? Okay, Isaiah, you happy? Lovely. Is there anybody who didn't understand how to do that? Is there anything that I need to explain there? Okay, that's great. What about question 114? Are you finished? If you can give me a thumbs up if you're finished. Otherwise, I can give you a couple more minutes to do that. Okay, so some of you are finished already. That's fine. Okay, so what we're going to do is Karen and Iomide, you get started on the simultaneous solution. And in 2 minutes, I'm going to move over to the left and we're going to have a look at the answer for 114. Are there any other questions? Okay. Mbali, do you have an answer for 114 now?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Mbali. What did you get? You can unmute your mic and tell me what you got, Mbali.
And I got 7 and -2.
You got 7 and -2. All right, that's really good. Well done. Those are the solutions. However, did you remember to check both solutions were valid at the end? Because that's something that we often forget to do with questions that have got roots in them. Okay, so Iomide, does that mean you know you didn't check your answer? Okay. All right, so with these types of questions, when we square both sides, you didn't check. Okay, well then that's great because now at least you've been reminded that that's something that you need to do. So with these kinds of questions, when we square both sides, so it's this squaring of both sides, this can possibly introduce a root that is not a valid root. Right? So once we've squared both sides and we've got it into standard form, you can see there's a mark for standard form, a mark for squaring both sides, another mark for your factors. I hope everybody wrote their factors. X minus 0 with the brackets equals 0. Okay, so if you leave off the equals 0, there are places where they can penalize you for that. So don't forget to make it equal to 0. And then you can see here, they've given you a mark for both answers and then an additional mark for the rejection of -2. So, okay, Benedict, so maybe what you did there was just an issue with your factorizing. So did you maybe have x plus 7 and then x minus 2 in your bracket? Right, so when you, okay, all right, so when you've got a middle term that's negative, Benedict, okay, the bigger of the two numbers, the bigger of the two factors that you're working with is the one that has to be negative. Okay, so the 7 is the one that has to be negative and 2 is the one that has to be positive. Okay, all right, and then we would reject -2 by substituting back in. Right, so what you've got to do there is you've got to check that the left-hand side equals the right-hand side. And that's just a quick check that you do on your calculator. So you would take your answer 7 and you would replace that x over there with 7. And then you would check what the left-hand side gives you. So if you sub in 7, 7 plus 18 would leave you with 25, right? And the square root of 25 would be 5. Then on the right-hand side, you'd sub in 7 again in place of the x, and you'd say 7 minus 2, and the right-hand side would give you 5. And that's why x equals 7 is a valid root, because we get 5 on both sides. It's left-hand side equals right-hand side. Now, let me just rub the 5s out. Now, when we sub in -2, right, on the left-hand side, if we sub in -2, what would we get as an answer? Karabo, what would you get as an answer if you subbed in -2 on the left?
An error.
You shouldn't get an error, Karabo, because if it was just -2 on its own, you would. But can you see here, you've got the plus 18? Can you see that? So you're going to sub in. So you're going to sub in the -2, and then you're going to say plus 18, and that's going to give you
Oh, 4.
the square root of 16. It's going to give you 4. Quite right.
Okay.
Good. Perfect. Well done, Luyanda. Quite right. Now on the other side, we've also got to, so that's on the right-hand side. Okay. Then we've got to look at the left-hand side, right? On the left-hand side, we've got x, so -2, and then we want to subtract another 2. We're going to end up with -4.
-4.
Yeah, quite right. Okay, so because the left-hand side doesn't equal the right-hand side, that's why we have to say that x equals -2 is not a valid solution. Okay, is everybody happy with that, why that happens? Okay, so
Yeah.
don't forget, when you square both sides, okay, you've got to check whether both solutions are valid. All right. Okay, so let's go back. The next question that's super important for us to be able to do is to solve simultaneously. Okay, so Karen and Ayomide, you might be busy with this one. Everybody else, you can get started on the simultaneous solution. This is quite an easy one. And then I'm going to call on you and you're going to tell me what your answers for X and Y are. Okay. Is anybody finished with 1.2? Yes, we're busy with 1.2 live. That's right. Do you need help getting started live? No problem. Karen and Ayomide, are you finished with this question? No, okay. Okay, no problem. Thanks, Karen. You're having problems with factorizing. Okay. Ayomide, can you tell me? Okay, Tsepo, that's great. You keep, everybody just keep going, right? I'm going to talk to Ayomide quickly. All right, so Ayomide, what is your trinomial? You must have a trinomial. What have you got?
I have 2y plus y minus 3 is equals to 0.
Just say that again. So you've got 2y
Plus y minus 3 is equals to 0.
Are you sure it's not 2y squared?
Oh, 2y squared, sorry.
2y squared, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so you must have made x the subject of the formula and then subbed in, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so you said x is equal to 3 minus y, yes?
Yes.
Okay, and then you went 2 times, everyone else, you just carry on going, all right, plus, then here we would have had 4y, and then here we would have had 3 minus y minus 15 equals 0. I've just moved everything over to the left-hand side, Ayomide.
Yes.
So then we would end up with, I'm talking nonsense, we would end up with 2, and then here you would have had 9 minus 6y plus y squared plus 12y plus 4y squared minus y minus 15 equals 0. Okay, so I'm going to write underneath here. So that's going to leave us with 18.
Ma'am,
Yeah,
ma'am,
yeah.
you multiplied 4y times negative y. It's supposed to be negative 4y
Negative
squared.
4y squared. Quite right it is. Thank you very much. You're quite right. Thank you. Okay, so that would have given us 18. Then it would have been minus 12y. Then it would have been plus 2y squared. Then plus 12y minus 4y squared minus y minus 15 equals 0. Okay, so now 2y squared minus 4y squared, that would give us negative 2y squared. Okay, then we've got minus 12y plus 12y minus y, so that would be minus y over here. And then 18 take away 15 would be plus 3. So yes, I'm getting the same answer as you. You just divided through by negative 1. Okay, so now,
Same answer.
because 2 is a prime number, it can only be 2 times 1. Okay, so getting 3 at the end here, one bracket has to have 3 at the back and the other one has to have 1 at the back, but we want plus 1 in the middle. So in this case, what we want to do is this. We want to say minus 2y plus 3y to give us that plus 1y in the middle. And then positive 3 times negative 1 will leave us with minus 3 at the end. Okay, Ayomide?
Okay.
That's the
Thank
bit that you
you.
were struggling. No problem. Okay, so now you've got 2 solutions for y, and then we want 2 solutions for x. I'm just going to rub that out. Anybody else got any questions? If you are finished with question 1.2, please will you put a thumbs up into the chat?
Ma'am,
Yes.
actually for that question, like I also got the same answer. Then, like when I check in the calculator, it's giving me 12 instead of 15.
When you check on the calculator, it's giving you
12.
12. Where are you? Can you explain to me, or can you, I don't know if you can take a picture and put it in the chat. Where are you getting 12?
Actually, ma'am, my y values are negative 1,5 and 1. My x values are 2 and 4,5.
Okay, I'm going to go over here and we're going to have a look at what we were supposed to get. Okay. All right, so that's what we should have had. Now, you can choose matrix. The choice is yours. Either you can make y the subject to the formula, or you can make x the subject to the formula, because they gave you that x plus y equals 3. So if one person chose to say x equals 3 minus y and somebody else chose to say y equals 3 minus x, it's exactly the same thing. It wouldn't matter at all. Okay, so then you would have got 1 mark for making either x or y subject to the formula, another mark for substituting in, a mark for standard form. So if you solved for x first, you would have had 2x squared minus 13x plus 18. If you solved for y first, you would have had what Ayomida and I had, which was this 2y squared plus y minus 3 equals 0. So I'm sorry, I don't know who was just speaking to me just now, but you didn't get the same answers for x and y that we're talking about over here. Can you see where you've gone wrong?
I got the same answers.
You did get the same
9
answers. Okay.
9 over 2 is 4,5. So I just made it into.
That's fine. Okay, so if you had negative 1.5, it's exactly the same thing as negative 3 over 2. How's everybody else doing?
Ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, can I ask, how do you factorize when there's a coefficient in front of the x squared? Because
Okay.
it becomes difficult.
If you are struggling with it, you are welcome to use the quadratic formula. Just as an alternative. I mean, I'm happy to explain to you how you would factorize that, but if it is something that becomes overwhelming, you are welcome to use the quadratic formula. So what you would do is that instead of you showing this line over here where you factorized, you could show that you'd subbed into the quadratic formula, and that would be perfectly okay. Let's just answer your question though. Let's just go over to the side here. And I just want to get this down. So we've got 2x squared minus 13x plus 18 equals 0. Okay, so let me just move this into the center. Okay, so when you want to factorize a trinomial that has something other than 1 in front of the x squared, the first thing that you need to do is you need to look and see what kind of number that is. So a number like 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 or any other prime number is easier to work with, because the only way you can get 2 is by 2 times 1. The only way you can get 3 is by 3 times 1. The only way you can get 5 is by 5 times 1. If you have a number like 6 at the front, it can be a little bit trickier, because you can get 6 by saying 6 times 1, or you could get 6 by saying 2 times 3. So if it is I'm just gone out of my head now, the opposite of prime. I can't think of the name at the moment, but if it's not a prime number, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So because 2 is a prime number, it makes factorizing a little bit easier for us here. So in one bracket, we've got 2x, in the other bracket, we've got x, and then we mustn't forget to write our equal 0. So first times first will give us our 2x squared, okay? Now, we can ignore all of that. Now we need to look here at the end, at the 18. Let's just get a different color, okay? And we are asking ourselves, what are the factors of 18? Try and start matrix with the two numbers, the two factors that are the closest to one another. So we've got 1 times 18. Those are quite far apart. Then we've got 2 times 9, and we've got 3 times 6. Is there anything that I haven't thought of? those are the factors of 18, right? So my suggestion to you is start with the numbers that are the closest together. So start with 3 and 6, okay? If you were to put 6 over here and 3 over there, you want your middle term to be negative and your last term to be positive. So that means that both brackets have to be negative. So if we test this, we'd end up with 12x minus 3x. That's not going to give us minus 15. Okay, so that didn't work. Don't give up, rub it out, and try something else. Let's swap it around now, okay? So what I'm going to, oh no, that won't work either. Why will it not work if I put the 6 here and the 3 there? Does anybody know why that won't work?
Wouldn't
It
it
won't.
give you 6 and 6 because of the 2 times 3?
It will give, well, what we'll end up with is we'll end up minus 6, so we'd end up with minus 12x, which is not minus 13x. So it won't give us that number. But also, if there isn't a common factor that you can take out of the trinomial, then you can't have a bracket like this where you could take out a common factor of 2. All right, so because there's no common factor here that can be taken out, there can't be a common factor in one of the brackets that are taken out. So that means that we've tested that, that didn't work. All right, so let's try 2 and 9 and see what happens. Okay, so we've got 2x and x, and then over here, now we're going to try 9 and 2. If I put 9 here, when I do my outers, I'm going to end up with 18. Right. If I then end up putting minus 2 over here, again, that's not going to work for me because I can't have 2 factors in the same bracket. So that doesn't work. All right, let's try it the other way around. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to put 9 over here and we're going to put 2 over there. Right, so this gives us 4x. So both brackets have to be minus 4x. Minus 9x from the middle. Can you see how we found it now? All right, because minus 4 minus 9 will give us that minus 13 that we're looking for. If the middle term is negative and the last term is positive, both brackets have to be minus. Does that answer your question on how you would factorize this? Are you happy with that? Okay. I trust that you'll stop me if you're not. All right. So there we go. There are our answers. All right. So making one
Yes, ma'am.
subject.
Thank you so much.
No problem. It's a pleasure. Okay, so either making X or Y the subject of the formula, another mark for substituting, standard form, factors, don't leave off the 0. Okay, make sure in your line where you write factors whenever you are solving that it's equal to 0, and then an accuracy for both X's and both Y's. Okay, so now let's go back. So all of those questions that we've been looking at are fairly standard. All right, now let's go back and have a look at this. So this question over here, number 1.3, is a slightly more difficult question, right? Not an impossible question, but something that's a little bit more difficult. So before we jump into the other questions that we're actually already comfortable with, let's just have a look at how we would answer this, all right? So do you see that they're asking you to solve for n as a base? Okay, can you see that n is the base of 200? So when we solve exponential equations, either we can solve for x as the exponent, which is not what's happening here. So for example, if I had 2 to the power of x equals 8, then I'm solving for x as the exponent, all right? So then the rule is I must write my number with the same base. And once I've equated my bases, I can equate my exponents, right? What we're doing here is this. So imagine we've got x to the power of 3 equals 2 to the power of 3. The idea here is because your exponents are the same, now you can equate the bases. So now you can say, well, therefore, x has to be equal to 2. But you need to know that before you start this question, right? So we're solving for n in the same manner as what we've done on the left over here, because it's the base. Does anybody have an idea? I mean, surely they want us to do something with this 200 and this 300. What do you think they want us to do? Why do you think they've given us 200 and 300? What can we do with that, do you think? Anyone got any ideas?
Ma'am,
Go for it.
I wanted to ask, do we separate the 5 to the power of 300 to like 5 to the power of 100 times 5 to the power of 100?
Very good. Well done. 100%. Okay. So if I do that, what am I going to end up with? So I don't know if you can see that blue. That might be a little bit difficult. Hang on a second. Sorry. Let me just make it a bit darker. There we go. Maybe that's a bit better. All right. So that was a fantastic suggestion. I'm sorry. I didn't see in the chat who was talking to me, but great suggestion. So we're going to take out that. And then you said on this side over here, we're going to do that. I think that was what you were suggesting.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay. So what would be your next step? That's 100% perfect. What would be your next step?
I think I'm going to separate it, ma'am.
When you say separate it, can you see at this point matrix, you have got n squared that's been raised to the power of 100, and you've got 5 to the power of 3 that's been raised to the power of 100. So in other words, you've got a base with an exponent, but it's being raised to the same thing. So in other words, if I had 3 to the power of 2 to the power of 100 is equal to x to the power of 3 to the power of 100. What I can do is I can say, well, x cubed must be equal to 3 to the power of 2. So you're equating the bases because the exponents are the same. So because you've got an exponent of 100 in both of these, not that you're equating it, it's not it's an inequality in this case, but we've got n squared is going to be smaller than 5 cubed. Does that make sense? So because we're raising both of them to the power of 100, that means that we are allowed to work with the n squared and the 5 cubed. Okay. So this question asks us for the largest integer for which n to the power of 200 is smaller than 5 to the power of 300. We're almost there. So that means that n squared has to be smaller than 125. Okay, so 5 times 5 times 5 gives us 125. Okay. So now, what are we going to do in our next step? Anybody know? What would we do at this point?
Are we gonna take the 125 over to the other side?
Okay, if you took the 125 over to the other side, what would you do after that? If I did this?
Don't the inequality signs change?
If you divide through by a negative,
Oh,
you divide through by a negative, then the inequality signs will change. Iomida, you're saying square both sides. So
Yes,
if we've got a root on either side, then we would square both sides. We're actually very close to the answer here. So we can't square both sides. Can we just root both sides?
No,
Is
yeah,
it
you
okay
could-
because this is an inequality? Can we do that? That's fine, Iomida. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys, because this is so much neater than my handwriting. There we go. Okay, so there would be no point in taking the 125 over to the other side because you would not be able to factorize in any event. What you would then do is you would have to pick up your calculator. All right, so you would work out what the square root of 125 is. It should give you something like 11,18 something. You can just check that now. So it means that n squared has to be smaller than 125. Which then means that the largest, sorry, n squared has to be smaller than 125. So you'd end up with, yeah, it is 11,18. And then the next smallest integer would be 11. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can
Cool
I ask then
beans.
how can we check if the answer is right?
In this
Because
situation over here, it's a bit of a difficult one to check whether your answer is correct. Normally it's not like another equation where you can go and sub back in. I'm just trying to think how I'm going to answer your question. How would you check that your answer was correct in this case? Oh, maybe we can go and sub back in. All right, because n is an integer, right? So I don't know if your calculator will allow you to do 11 to the power of 200. It might be too big.
ma'am, it won't.
Yeah, it
says error.
won't. Yeah, no, it's too big. Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to check on your calculator in this case, unfortunately. Okay, is everybody happy with the concept behind this though?
Ma'am,
Yes, my love.
I used a different method.
Okay, what did you do?
Instead of putting 3 outside of the bracket and then 100 inside the bracket, I just divided the 300 by 1.5. So it was n to the power of 200, the sign, open bracket, 5 to the power of 1.5, close bracket, to the power of 200. But I still got 11.
You're going to have to tell me what to write and then I can have a look, because the only other way that I would have thought to do this would have been to use logs, but I'm not going to discount another way of doing it. Just tell me what you had written, please.
N to the power of 200, less
Smaller than.
Open bracket, 5 to the power of 1.5, close bracket, to the power of 200. Then I removed the 200, so n was less.
So then you would have had n is smaller than 5 to the power of 1,5. What did this come to when you did that on your calculator?
I got 11.18.
Yeah.
Then I rounded off.
Yeah, that's fine. Yes, that would be absolutely fine, because then you would end up with n being smaller than 11,18, whatever. So therefore the maximum value would still be 11. Perfect. 100%. It's not something I would have thought of, but there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, well done. Good job. Okay, so any other questions? No. Okay, so what I was thinking we could do, Matrix, is we've got about 10 minutes left. By now, you know what to do in question 111, 112, and hopefully what to do in 113. Let's have a look at 114. This is quite a nice question. I think this might be the last one that we have time for. What would we do here? Anyone got any ideas?
Ma'am,
Yes.
do we say that the first bracket is equal to x, and the second bracket is equal to x?
Unfortunately not. If you've got, imagine if you had a situation like this. So I'm just going to write something here. Imagine if you had 3 plus x over here, and there you had 3 minus x is equal to x. Would it be okay in this situation for me to say, well, 3 plus x is equal to x, or 3 minus x is equal to x? I'm not allowed to do that. I can only do that if this is equal to 0. All right. So if it's equal to something else, then I'm not allowed to do that. All right, because it won't be true. Multiply both brackets by one another. Absolutely. So there's a rule in maths. Okay. So this is also, it's an application type question. And this, I think, is the first time you would come across this would be in grade 10. If you have something like this, if you've got the square root of 2 and you multiply that by the square root of 3, can you write that as the square root of something? What would it be equal to the square root of? Does anybody know?
Is it the square root of 6?
It is, indeed. Indeed. So we can go in this direction, right? And then when they give us something like that, we can go back and we can go and split it apart. So that's the principle on which this question is founded. Can you see you've got a root over the entire thing in the first bracket and a root over the entire thing in the second bracket? So what that means is that we could put a big root and say, well, this is going to be equal to the square root of 32 plus x multiplied by the square root of 32 minus x, like so. Does that make sense to you? Right, so because they're being rooted, because they're both being square rooted, it's possible for us to multiply them with one another, right? What do you think we would do now?
Ma'am, would you square both sides?
I don't think I would square. Mind you, you probably could square both sides, but I think what I would try and do is try and work inside the square root over here first. In other words, what would happen? So try and simplify this first. If you multiply, so this is just straightforward FOIL. Does anybody recognize what's going on inside these brackets? What's this called? There's a special name for what we're seeing inside the root sign here.
A difference of 2 squares.
Difference of 2 squares, exactly. Okay, so when you multiply difference of 2 squares, what happens?
The square roots, they cancel each other out.
Exactly. So we don't have a middle term, right? So in other words, we're going to have only what we get from the firsts and only what we get from the lasts. All right. So because the outer and the inner middle terms will end up canceling one another out, as you said. So root 32 times root 32 is how much?
32.
32.
Indeed. Okay. And positive x times negative x is?
Negative x squared.
Indeed. Okay, now I've made this a little bit long, so let me just, whoopsie, I need to take it away. Is equal to x. So I would do that first, and now I would go about squaring both sides. Let's see you guys finish this one off. And remember, it's got a root in it, So don't forget to check, because now when we square both sides, we could have introduced a root that could not be a valid root. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys finish that one off, and then we're going to look at the answer. And I can't believe our time is up already. It goes too quickly. Okay, so off you go, Matrix. Well done, Ayush. You got an answer of 4 already. And we can go and have a look at where the marks would be allocated. I'm just going to work slowly behind you guys. That's what I'm getting as a solution. 4, -4. Mbali, okay. We've just got to go back and check, okay, Mbali. So you've got a sub in 4, and then you've also got a sub in -4, and you've got to check, does the left-hand side equal the right-hand side? Ayush, did you do that? Did you check that the left and the right equals one another?
Oh, no, ma'am. I'm gonna do
Okay,
that
so
now.
just, that's okay. Just go ahead and just double check on that, sub those in, and then we can,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Yes, ma'am. Both sides are equal.
Oh, so if you use 4 or -4, it works out.
Yes. No,
It
is it
does.
positive 4? I think it's positive 4.
Okay, what I'm
Yeah,
going
both
to do, it is possible that both solutions do give us, I'm just going to see where the answer is. Oh, there we go. All right, so we were correct. It would be plus or minus 4. Okay, so -4 doesn't work. If we sub in -4, it won't work out for us. Okay, so in this case, only +4 worked. -4 didn't work. Did you remember that when you subbed in over here, that you've got negative? So you'd end up on your calculator, you'd end up with bracket with a root over it, and then another root over here, and then that would be 32. And then that would be -4, close brackets. And then here you'd have another root underneath of 32, and then it would be -4, so that would be +4 over here. So this is now if we sub in -4, does this, what does this give us on the right-hand side as an answer? I don't have my calculator on.
4.
It gives us +4. Okay, so on the right-hand side, we've got +4. Thank you so much. But then on the left-hand side, we've just got x, which would be -4. All right, that can be really confusing to check because your solutions are the same as the left and the right. Okay, so 4 does not equal -4, so that's why x cannot be -4, and it's only +4 that's been accepted as an answer. Okay. All right, Matrix. Well, our time is up, unfortunately. I hope that that was helpful to you. Next week, there's going to be a little bit more interaction. I think these are the sort of questions that we just need to keep practicing. So go and have a look on the department's webpage, go and have a look at I've shown you the 2019, go and have a look at the 2018 and try and practice these questions, okay, so that you can make sure that for question 1, you've got 22 or 23 out of 23, okay. All right, I'm going to end off there and I'm going to hand you back to, it's a pleasure, Karen, greatest pleasure. I hope that it was helpful. I'm going to hand you back to Coco. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lee. Hi, guys. Hi again to everyone. I know most of you guys saw me in the finance lesson. It's nice to see you guys back with us again. I'm just going to be taking us through our schedule, which is quite important because this particular course is not going to look the same as all the other ones that you guys have been doing. So for finance, we used to be here on a Tuesday and a Thursday, but this one is going to be a little bit different. So I'm sorry, Lee, I'm just going to have to share my screen.
No problem.
Quickly. I just need to. Okay, I just need to share my screen here. Okay, so this is where we are right now. We are looking at paper 1 revision, and this is what our schedule is going to look like. Now, you guys will notice in this one, our dates are not exactly spread out. We are looking at everything that we're going to be doing being done every single day. So we're going to be seeing you guys tomorrow at 6 p.m. as well, on Wednesday, on Thursday, not on Friday, but we will see you for 2 sessions of calculus and then calculus probability and the fundamental counting principle. That'll be on Saturday at 10 a.m. Okay, it will start at 10. It will be 2 hours long. You'll work from 10 until 12. So you guys need to make a mental note of that. We will not be on the call on Friday, and we will not be here on Saturday at 6 p.m. You need to be here 10 a.m. So be very cautious of that. Please make a note of that so that you don't miss teacher leave that Saturday morning. Okay, she did already kind of give you guys homework. You guys can go check out the 2018 papers, but you are more than welcome to go onto the app. We do have a section right at the bottom called exam revision. And if you click inside, we would like you guys to have a look at the paper 1, the NSC paper 1 for 2017. Now inside, you're going to find 2 PDFs. Hello? Oh, I think she's just not muted. Okay, so inside you're going to find 2 PDFs. One will be the question paper and the other will be the memo. So you guys can check where your marks are going to come in and where they're going to allocate the marks, and you guys can check if you're on the right track. Okay, and then I need to remind you guys, since we won't be having a class on Friday evening at 6 p.m., our mentors are going to be running a workshop on maths anxiety. So if you guys are feeling a little bit like you're not quite getting where maths is and you guys are having trouble coping, please do join them. They're going to be sharing practical steps on how to overcome your math anxiety so that you guys can do the best that you possibly can in your exams, in your prelims and your finals. And it is a very important year for you guys, we know. So I think it'll be very beneficial for you guys to go check that out. Okay. Right, so that's it from us today. We will see you guys tomorrow, not on Wednesday or on another day, tomorrow, 6 p.m., this very place, okay?
Indeed.
Just gonna stop sharing quickly.
Thank you,
guys.
Coco.
Bye, everyone. We will see you guys tomorrow evening, okay?
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for your participation. You guys were excellent today.